Greetings, everyone. This is Payman Lorenzo, your host of the Leaders Without podcast. Today, I have a very special guest, a special episode. One of my good friends, a guest from the podcast, and also one of my alumni of the first round of the 3-week launcher podcast, Samantha from tropical Minnesota. So, welcome back, my friend. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Pleasure's all mine. So, we had a nice chat on Saturday, just as I was telling you earlier, just as the storm was just raging. And yeah, so you told me about some amazing things. But before we start, before we even get into that, for people who don't know you, in short, tell us, who's Samantha as a person and as a human being?
hmm I'm a leadership cultivator. I grew up in the Midwest on a farm, and through my journey in life, I started to realize that a lot of us have unwritten rules
Mhm.
that dictate our lives and guide us in how we think and prioritize and feel and perceive the world around us. So I wanted to take a little bit different approach to leadership, and I work with girls and women specifically on learning how to rewrite those rules that tell them who they should be, what they should be, instead of who they really are and who they're called to be in the world.
Beautiful. And I remember the first conversation we had as soon as you told me that. I said, listen, this is a powerful mission. I want you to be not only on the podcast, but also this would you need to have you on podcast because this is such a powerful message. And
Mhm.
long story short, you have your podcast now. So tell us, what is the name of the podcast again?
The name of my podcast is called The Code of Sisterhood,
Mhm.
and just publishing and getting things live this week. And I've had some really incredible guests already, but the focus is looking at how women a lot of times learn how to
Mhm.
distrust each other and compete with each other. So the show is all about women that have experienced isolation, devaluation, disrespect, competition, and how we have overcome that to learn how to create true sisterhoods together. And we
Mhm.
also explore at what age should this start for girls? How should we be supporting girls in self development? And then we also explore the way that we would like men to show up for us, or men that are in
Mhm.
our lives that show up for us to be supportive in who we really are.
Beautiful. Gonna ask you a couple of questions on that. That's very powerful. But before I even get that, when did you officially launch a podcast?
This week.
Really?
Yeah, I've been playing around with it for several
Whoa.
months, but finally it's gonna, yeah, this week for real. So I have a bunch
Congratulations.
of, thank you. I have a bunch of episodes ready to roll out, but yeah,
How many did you
officially
record so far?
15
Wow. So how often are you going to release them?
once a week.
Okay. So you said
Unless I
for,
have a lot of guests, then it might become twice a week.
so how hard do you want to go at it? Once a week or do you want to go all in once a day?
Oh, once a day would be crazy. I
Not
would love it
really.
if I could do it. That would be awesome.
How many Zoom calls a day do you get into?
A bunch. I don't, that's a great question.
At
All
least
day
3 to 5,
long, on
right?
and off all day long. Oh yeah,
So why not
easy.
just take one of those a day, turn them into a podcast? Because it's not like it's going to ask you to put in extra time. You're just
There we
using
go.
what you're already putting in. And honestly, I share that with you the story of a guy that built an 8-figure business just using this one podcast a day, Monday to Friday, 20, 30 minutes, invite only your ideal exact client. But for you, I understand that you're not really building a business, but a nonprofit. We're going to get into that.
Mhm.
But if
Yeah.
but you can easily do that. But before we even talk about it, you mentioned something that I want you to, because that was powerfully said. At what age should we start supporting girls? And even so, what is the, as far as I'm concerned, right from the moment they're born. But what is your answer?
My answer is before they're born.
Oh, even better. Okay, good.
Because we know, right? There's science right now telling us more and more clearly what
Hmm.
happens before a child is even born, how
Hmm.
they're being prepared to be brought into the world.
So
So,
how would you
yeah,
help a girl before she's even born?
a lot of it begins with the environment of the mother and the father. What's the stress level of mom? What does
Hmm.
mom think about? What is her
Hmm.
coherence or inner balance like? And yeah, what's the experience that she's having in the world around her to help inform how this baby is going to enter the world with some epigenetic
Mm-hmm.
predispositions. Yeah, so I think it's before they're even born, but if you're not even sure how to do that, it is the very moment they're born.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
What would be the best way to support them once they're born and once they, start becoming, aware, and especially once they get into the teenage years, because those are the most important years for them to really, not only that's where they're building their self confidence, self esteem, and also starting, so to speak, to spread their wings to really see what can really be done if they're in a supportive environment.
Hmm. A lot of times we like to have conversations with people that are full of advice and
Mm-hmm.
telling, shoulding on each other. So when I talk to friends, when I talk to other parents, when I talk
Mm-hmm.
to kids, I find that the magic always happens in conversations and relationship development when there's no
Mm-hmm.
telling, and instead there's open-ended questions and guidance so that
Mm-hmm.
the child can come to their own conclusion and learn how to prioritize values and set a
Yes.
solid belief system that is healthy.
I'm very interested personally in that because I have a niece. She's going to turn 10 in July, and my nephew just turned 7 at the start of this month. And it really, we talked about that on Saturday, and that was really what excited me the most, because you were talking about building a program to teach the skills that are not taught in schools, such as entrepreneurship,
Mhm.
using money, and all that. But before we even get into that, because that's something that we can do an entire podcast just on that. Not the episode, but entire podcast. But you mentioned about how should men show up. Tell us about that, because as a man, I'm interested as well.
Yeah, I think it's kind of similar to the conversation of how do we
Mm-hmm.
support kids and help them, and it's all
Mm-hmm.
about being willing to talk to each other, men talking to men about how confusing and strange women are to them, but also
Yeah.
men and women being willing to talk about what are the things in the world that are dividing us right now. What are things that I learned as a woman growing up that serve me now? What doesn't serve me? What kind of a woman do I or do I not want to be? And for you as a man in my life, or a boy, or right, whatever
Mm-hmm.
developmental stage that you're at, same thing. How did you learn to be a man? What is manhood?
Great
And
question. What is a
if
woman?
our
That's actually one of the things that is going
exactly.
viral right now. What is a woman? Is that a real?
Hmm.
But it is a real question. Yeah.
It
Wow.
is, yeah. And then to again to say to each other, if the value systems aren't aligned, then
Great to
that's
know.
just how it is.
Yeah.
But know who you are.
Yeah. And also, we need to look at things from a point of, we're not competing, we're complementing each other.
Yeah.
You're a woman, I'm a man. You're not me against you. For me to win doesn't mean you have to lose, and vice versa. For me to win, generally speaking, it means also you winning. So what can we do to make it not only to make it a win-win for all of us, and embrace our qualities, because there are qualities that a man has that the woman doesn't have, and vice versa. So it doesn't mean that one is better than the other. It means that they complement each other. That's why we brought together to work as a team. Just like as I one of part of my branding, 1+1 is not 2 but 11. You know.
Yes.
So what can we do to ensure that now we do not suppress or fight our natural qualities, but we embrace them, so together
Mhm.
we can come together and complement each other, as opposed to competing with each other.
Yes, exactly. That's so beautifully said. And it goes back to harmony,
Yin and yang.
unity.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. And it doesn't mean that life is perfect and the world
No.
is without problems. It just means that we know how to discuss and move through
Beautiful.
those problems better, healthier.
Absolutely. We can have an entire conversation, fascinating conversation on that. But I'm
Mhm.
excited to know about all the good stuff that you've been up to since since we last spoke. So tell us about all the amazing things you told me on Saturday.
Yes. So we reconnected because I had gone a little bit into stealth mode and we hadn't touched base for three
Hmm.
months almost, I think.
Yeah.
And um, sometimes that's just how I end up doing my thing. But since we visited last, I've taken
Mm-hmm.
the concept of my main business, which focuses on women's leadership cultivation,
Mm-hmm.
and reframed it and refined it to be focused on girls. So right now I have girls that I'm working with that are 8 or 9 up through high school, and I'd like to extend it up to like ages 8 through 28.
Mm-hmm.
It's called Brave Girl International.
Wow.
So I want it to cross borders and cross cultures and cross spiritual practices and belief systems, and really center on designing experiences for girls in self leadership development
Mm-hmm.
so that they can show up authentically and take that into the world as better leaders in a family if they decide to be part of, like, have their own family or interact with their family, a better leader in a community, better leader in an organization. So redefining what leadership even means and
Mm-hmm.
letting it be everyday leadership, a natural born leader.
And how are you working with these girls? Are you working one on one? Are you working in small groups? Are you going to their houses? Are they coming to your house, or are you guys meeting outside? So tell us about the more nitty gritty way of how you having an impact in these girls' lives.
Absolutely. Right now we have a virtual circle once a
Okay.
month. So the first Friday of every month, at 6:30 p.m. Central Time, we get together on Zoom, and it has evolved into, it's not just a girls group anymore. It's Brave Girl and Brave Mom.
Okay.
So we have,
Beautiful.
right, we get together, we start out with a theme for the night, and then moms go to one room and talk about everything that is required of being a brave mom. And the girls go to their room and we talk about what it means to be a brave girl. I've had some dads reach out recently too and say, "What about brave dads?"
Yeah.
That's been
Exactly.
cool to support their daughters and wives. Um, but yeah, we're meeting virtually right now a lot because of my work in the nonprofit sector previously. I started to get kind of frustrated with funding sources and projects
Mm-hmm.
being super hyper localized,
Mm-hmm.
where that's not my network, that's not my reality. And I believe there's a different way to do support and development work. So I want it to be as broad sweeping and deep for the people involved as possible. I don't want it to just be for my zip code. So eventually there will be in-person events,
Yes. Those will
but
be
I want
fun.
the, yeah, I want the essence of it to really be about crossing borders. And for me, borders mean the imaginary lines of your town, the imaginary lines of a county or a region that you live in.
So
Yeah.
right now, the people you consult with, are they mostly local, or are they all across the U.S. or around North America, the world?
Around the world right now. I think in our
Whoa.
next session, if everyone shows up, we should have 10 different countries represented.
So have you got to
So,
the top to the place that you have, because you have clients at the other side of the world, you're doing calls at crazy odd times, like at 3 o'clock in the morning, or like,
mhm,
you know, which is like noon
yes,
for them, you know?
exactly. Like it's evening for us and we're saying good morning to people in Australia, right? For example, or someone in Singapore. So it's really beautiful.
Or in
And
Europe, yeah.
yeah, and the girls are absolutely having a blast with it because another passion of mine is coming from a rural background,
Mm-hmm.
realizing that you might be isolated wherever you are, but when you're in a rural space, the isolation comes at a completely different level and a very different dynamic.
Absolutely. Wow.
Yeah.
So how did you convince the moms to join? Were they
They
hesitant at first?
asked.
Oh wow.
No,
They were
they
seeing their
asked
daughters
for
having a
it.
great time. Say, I want to join in too.
Yeah, and to say if other moms are supporting their daughters, there must be some other similar thinking or similar the shared lived experiences. So what
Mm-hmm.
value could we get in having a neutral space to learn as mothers and seeing some of the really scary things that girls are having to grow up with right now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So for each of those calls that you do you have a specific theme, or is it just you just ask them? So, what do you guys want to? What challenges you have, and tackle those together?
It's a combination. So
Mm,
I, from my time as an educator, I spent most of my time in middle school settings.
okay.
So I really got to know like
Oh
what is
yeah.
it that goes on with middle school and high school girls? What fears do they face that they're not willing to talk about, but it eventually surfaces for them in life?
Hmm.
So we have themes that come out to guide each session, but the rest is led by the girls. So how do you define this thing we're talking about? We go through like a focus conversation. So we go through
Hmm.
how do you define it? What are feelings and experiences around it? What's the meaning or the value of this subject in your life? And then we do something actionable at the end.
Are you teaching them to look at things from maybe they're too young to understand spirituality, but when something happens, don't ask why me, what did they do to deserve this, but instead ask them, what is this trying to teach you? What is the lesson for you to learn through this experience?
Yes, they're starting to bring it up on their own, which I
Okay.
think takes us all back to this lesson of the spirit of youth and
Mhm.
the wisdom and intuition that they have that gets programmed out, right? So, in our last session specifically, we talked about what's the difference between being smart and having wisdom.
Oh,
And
that's
the
a good one.
definitions that they gave were just amazing. Just, coming from a 10-year-old, a group of 10 to 12-year-old girls saying
Sure.
wisdom is about living life and knowing who you are and being real. But
Oh,
smart
wow.
is just going through school and learning things out of books, right? You have to learn certain things and check it off on a checklist.
I think they could be well positioned to teach some of our adults, especially some of those that are supposedly our leaders in today's world.
I
They can learn
totally
along from
agree.
these kids.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. Youth advisors.
Yes, exactly. Wow. So what's how do you see this moving forward? What is your vision with this?
I want to keep building the Brave Girl community, the Brave Girl Circle. I would love to be running it multiple times a week. If we had so many
How
people
often do
that
you run it so far currently?
it, yeah, just once a month right now. But I
Okay.
think the girls would like to meet more often. So that's already starting to surface.
So
Yeah.
what's stopping you to do it at least once a week?
Um, Getting more people involved, so growing the community, and then also starting to develop a sponsorship or donorship model.
Mhm. You can
Yeah.
also have the members, the mothers, the girls that are
Mm,
currently in to refer their friends because they're having a
yes.
good time. That's the best way to organically grow this with a grassroots movement.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm also really amazed at just the essence of what brave girl means. The girls and the moms are starting to naturally start to talk about who else can be involved. So looking at not just a biological mother-daughter,
Hmm.
like mentor, student, grandmother,
Sure.
granddaughter, aunt, niece, two friends that are really connected. So it's taking us back to this code of sisterhood concept.
You know how you could frame it? You could do it the what is it, the sisterhood's party or whatever, the weekly party, something like this, to
That'd
make
be
it more
cool.
appealing, more fun. And each
Hmm.
week you can, I don't know, just thinking out loud, maybe give it a different name. You're gonna do like the wisdom party or the activity party, the
Hmm.
wellness party, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I love that.
That could really resonate with them. And hey, what are you doing this weekend? Oh, I'm gonna go to my, whatever wellness party. What's that? It's the best way to, get girls. And
Hmm.
now I can see this going very big. Yeah.
Yeah.
What gave you this idea initially?
My own growing up experience.
Okay. Yes.
I think my parents positioned me in a way that I had really unique opportunities to travel and meet other people. But at the same time, again, because I was in a small rural community,
Mm.
I started to see where I didn't fit, where I shouldn't talk about the things I loved and wanted to do and experience in the world. So I wanted to start creating experiences for girls, especially to learn how to express themselves and say when they have a need and express the need in a way that people don't push back on them and make them feel like it's not right to feel that way, or
Mm-hmm.
you're just a silly girl.
Yeah.
Hmm.
You mentioned some of the theme that you've talked with your group. What would you say has been so far the most popular theme so far?
I think wisdom was
Mm,
the favorite session so far, and we went into our breakout rooms, and the girls started to explore who they want to be when they grow up instead of what they want to be. So when you're in high school, what do you want to be like? Who do you want to become? And then I said, when you're 30, who do you want to be? And they all said, 30. I don't, that's so old. I
some
don't
people don't
know.
even know at 40, you know? So
That's
what the hell do they
right.
do? They just keep on, you know?
Yeah. But they started writing these letters like, Dear future me. And then they wrote letters to themselves while the moms were writing letters to their girlhood self. And then in our like final debrief, the moms and daughters met back up in their own house to read their letters to each other. So we came back for a final reflection, and it was really, really special and meaningful, where the girls said, you had us writing to our moms in a way.
That could be an
They
amazing
loved it.
podcast, an amazing
Yeah.
podcast by itself. Even that could be honesty. Maybe I'm speaking from wearing my publisher's hat now. Even a book,
Hmm.
beautiful
Yeah, it
book,
could be.
actually.
Yeah.
What would you say has been so far the topic that has been brought up that surprised you the most?
I think talking about authenticity, because there's
Mm,
so much like the idea of mean girls and being fake. So when we talked about authenticity, painful memories started to come up,
mm,
and things girls are experiencing in real life, like
mm.
today in school, and it's fresh on their mind. So talking about they want to be authentic, but sometimes they realize that they aren't because they want to fit into a group, and they're admitting it
Yeah,
and saying, I want to have friends, I want to be liked. So sometimes I'm not myself. And what does that mean for the rest of for for the people around you? What does it mean for yourself if you aren't true to yourself?
that's powerful, especially if they can understand that at such a young
Mm,
age.
yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's beautiful.
Hmm.
How are you planning to grow that?
Well, for the community, I just want it to be organic, fresh
Mm,
referrals, word of mouth from people, and eventually, I'd like to turn this whole thing into having an annual summit or a festival of some sort, a Brave Girl Festival. I'm partnering with Links Across Borders and a woman
wow.
named Sylvia Morrison to plan a 2023 summit in
Mhm.
Ghana. So that's going to be
Oh,
that's going to be
beautiful.
awesome.
Let me know the dates. I might join you.
Okay.
I'm not
Um,
kidding. I haven't been to
yeah,
Africa. That would be an amazing opportunity.
yeah, and then like we discussed this week, some creating some kind of a found school for founders where
Okay.
girls get to actually develop their entrepreneurial skills or leadership skills, right?
Love
If
that.
they don't necessarily want to found something, perhaps they can co-found, or one girl founds and another girl steps in as the director or a programmer. So learning a wide variety of leadership skills from that
Mm,
standpoint, so they can develop financial independence,
yeah,
creative thinking, disciplined thinking and focus, self-forgiveness, all the life lessons, the self-development that you have to have as an entrepreneur, or you can't make
beautiful.
it. Yeah.
That's something that I'm very passionate about. And we talked about that on Saturday, even, started thinking out loud and projecting out myself and ourselves way in the future and turning that into some kind of competition, teaching these kids, teenage kids, boys and girls, about the value of money using basic business skills that should be taught but are not taught. And eventually, why not even make a competition for them to pitch their ideas in front of people, and just like Shark Tank, but for Shark Tank for teens, for example, for kids.
Yes.
And then maybe not, we won't be able to attract, who knows, maybe in the future, yes, but initially, they don't have to be billionaires, but even normal people.
Mhm.
If I see something good, hey, why not? Let's help a kid, and It's not for
Yes.
the money, but just for helping them grow and learn invaluable life skills. And if the thing blows up, then at that time, sure, it's going to be beautiful.
That's right. Yeah.
So I love that. So keep me posted on that, because if, and I told you, that's something I've been wanting to do for a long time. It's part of me, my nature of helping, and if they can help the people that need it the most, especially kids, so we can have a better world, better future together,
Yeah.
while also teaching them the values of, wisdom, just like you're doing,
Mhm.
spirituality, and being, you know doing things for the right reasons,
Mhm.
and so that maybe when they get to a point to have positions of power, they can do things in a more meaningful way, more impactful way, more
Yes.
caring way.
Absolutely. I keep identifying that as like the critical missing link in, especially in leadership roles where, like I said before, if you're not the entrepreneur, if you're not the
Mhm.
person that has to be out making the money and you've got that consistent every couple weeks a paycheck and benefits come in,
Yeah,
yeah, it's easy to love the problem instead of get out of the way and become a compassionate, heart-centered leader that's really
that's it.
making a difference and eliminate yeah, eliminating the status quo,
Yeah,
giving people what they need.
building together a heart-centered world. This is the premise
Absolutely.
of my podcast, helping
Hmm.
entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs to do good with their businesses,
Hmm.
showcasing people that are entrepreneurs that are building impactful businesses. So that's very much in line with what I'm doing, kind of an extension of it. So that's why when I heard that, I was like, wow, I want you to come and share it in detail. So
Yeah,
anytime you have any updates on that, just let me know and we'll bring you on. And my doors are always open for you.
very cool. Thanks,
So,
Payman.
and if people want to, very welcome. If people want to know more about this beautiful initiative of yours, I want to get in touch with you. What's the best way to do so?
bravegirlinternational.org.
All right.
Yeah.
And once again, what's the name of your podcast?
The name of my podcast is called The Code of Sisterhood with Samantha Louise.
Beautiful, beautiful. Listen, Samantha, always a pleasure talking to you. Stay safe, stay awesome, keep shining your light, keep blessing the world with your presence, your impact. I really love what you're doing. I loved what you were doing, what you told me the first time, but this is even 10xing it, 100xing it. So keep doing that. You're amazing. So just keep being you.
Thank you.
Very welcome. And we're definitely going to stay in touch. So have a fantabulous day ahead of you. Take care.
You too.
Bye bye.